I wanted to do a short video today about RSI Day and the associated vessels that are a part of RSI Day that is combined with a few others. Just so you know, the only ship that is considered a limited ship in this day is the Phoenix, not the Polaris, not the A2. More on that in a little bit because this includes Crusader. But these are not limited ships any longer. So if you're looking for a Phoenix, which is a great ship, I really like the work that was done on that ship. It was a beautiful vessel, and it still is, and I can't wait to see it be fully realized with its PDS and with its working bar and everything else. It's finally get the piano working again. I think at a time period where when you have the Hortwell ADHE modification added. I think that there is some great things to be said about the Phoenix, but more on that in a little bit. Let's just go into the Scorpius, which is the new ship on the block. Many people are making comparisons for very good reasons to certain other sci-fi vessels. You can draw your own conclusion with this X configuration the ship is in. But it is its own independent creature. It has a turret that can rotate from the top down to the bottom of the vessel. So it gives it an interesting ground attack configuration that also can be used as a air superiority type attacker fighter class ship, I would argue, that combines its 16 size 2 missiles with its gunner seat, which is very mission critical. So the missiles would be something I would argue that the pilot could be utilizing, or in the new system, you also have the co-pilot, who's the gunner seat, could also operate the missile systems in most ships, combined with the turret, which can rotate back and forth, which has the quad-mounted configuration of weapon systems. I think it's a very cool ship. I think I always caution people to think about how this ship is going to operate on their vessels. There is a reason they keep showing the Bengal, the Bengal, the Bengal, which is not a player spawnable ship. There's only maybe a couple in the game, and even the largest orgs will not really own it, but more occupy it because it will always be available in space. So anybody, when you're weak, will try to take it off of you. So keep that in the back of your mind. It's a very maneuverable ship. It is designed for not just space, but also atmo work, hence the wings. It's also meant to be a Navy type, so UAE Navy style fighter, where it can fold inwards and be stored in large numbers on larger ships. I think also that will help with moving this ship around. I could definitely see one of these being moved around on an Argo SRV or a Crucible or something like that class of ship with it all nice and folded up. Maybe even squeeze in a second one on some types of ships that maybe you'd be surprised to find it on. So standalone, you're sitting at that price point of 220. I think this is not bad for a war bond variant. Notice it will have LTI, or sorry, 120-month insurance. I stand corrected. And then the upper price point of 240 for the still with 120-month insurance for credit. Interestingly, there is a war bond CCU, so there is a couple nice options that you could switch to this. Although I do caution a two-seater fighter that is viewed by some that will be balanced. I caution those who are not just looking for rule of cool and a great ship to pal around with a friend in, to be very, very careful about investing if you especially have a tiny fleet investing into this ship. This skin is already drawing a lot of ire from the community and a lot of laughs because of the style of the skin reminds them a lot of other sci-fi games. These two skins are more military based, stealthy versus camouflage, kind of vaguely camouflage. So they're really cool. I do like the variety of skins, and I like the paints have in this set. When you look at the Warbond variant, there is a lot of interesting vessels that come into their own in this price point. We're going to switch over to the Warbond one in a moment. That's really the one that's really interesting to me. Like, for example, I'll yet again pick on the Vulcan, and let's take a look if I can get this without having to log in to view the Scorpius. Here it is. So that's a pretty nice setup for 2020 from the Vulcan, which is an advanced starter, which I believe is basically overpriced. That may be my bias showing because you can make more money with the Vulcan, but I would think of Vulcan's a firmly buying game type of ship versus like a attacker class ship that can be utilized in two different roles. on this ship. The Connie Taurus, if you're trying to get yourself out of logistics, that's not a good idea, but if you're really heart set on it. Another ship that's interesting is the Hurricane. So you can see that it's only a small jump to the Scorp Warbond edition, although I would caution that the Hurricane itself is actually a decent class of ship for a 2-up configuration with a turret. It is also the tried and true. A lot of people have a lot of success with it. I firmly believe that the Scorpion will be rebalanced, at least its maneuverability, to kind of reflect its position in the lineups. But it is the new darling on the block. So here's another one. This is a great example of a 2-up ship to a 2-up ship that may be a good option for many. Another small price jump. But the Super Hornet Heartseeker Edition, or the traditional Super Hornet, a little different, but you go from a ship that's kind of a novelty factor and has a weak turret to a ship with a very strong quad-based turret that is going to hold up very well. When you're talking about this ship, it is very hard to ignore the 4 size 3 laser repeaters on that remote turret. Now, I feel like that's an interesting point. Because it's remote and it can switch positions constantly, and the pilot, the co-pilot, well, more of the gunner seat / co-pilot seat, is still situated with the pilot the entire time, it's actually perfect for people that don't want to feel disoriented inside a turret. If you jump into a hammerhead on the wrong side, you'll understand why I'm speaking like that. Or the ball turret on the Carrack, for example, where like it throws you into a weird position when you jump in and out of the seat. This is something where you can firmly get your bearings and then have that person jump into the gunner screen from that seat, and anytime they can switch back and they're back with you. So that's kind of a great way to keep people oriented, especially people that are not super got their ship legs yet, flying around and everything. Just a small little thing. I don't like these packs. I don't think the Mantis is worth what it claims it is. So I'm just going to leave it there. You only get the 120-month insurance for that. And especially that credit version is just horrendous pricing. I think the Mantis is just not worth its weight. It is extremely squishy. Yes, it is the only ship with a QED drive right now, but that actually works properly. I'm not talking about the blue that has an extremely short range one, but the QED and the net and everything else that it has, there will be other ships that are not as squishy, and I'm waiting for those because honestly, we need a heavy interdictor. This light interdictor is just too light for my taste. It has no weapon systems, and honestly, it should be balanced around having limited weapons, but not this few and this squishy. So this ship is just, I'm not a fan. So for that price point, it's just astronomical to me. Although you can tell they're desperately trying to sell it because the Warbond version, look at the difference in price between that and the credit. So that's honestly what they're trying to show you today, is this brand new beautiful ship. Let's actually go back to the main page that we clicked off of to get here, and let's take a look at just the RSI page. So you get both of them from the same place, and you can see yet again they're pushing the Scorp and the coolness factor, and you can see the other ships manufacturers that are on today: Origin, Consolidated Outland, and Argo. Now, out of these, honestly, I feel that the ships that really shine, I'm going to skip the medevac and the triage. I honestly was hoping that these ships would have more fleshed out today. I feel that there will be a lot more dev talk about this probably on Friday on these ships, but unfortunately, they're not out yet. I firmly believe when they nerf the Cuddy Red to not be regeneratable, not have regeneration built in anymore, which it never should have had, but it was just a stopgap measure. I thought for sure these medevac and the triage would be routed into a category of being brought into flyable as soon as possible. I just said, okay, well, that's the deal. That's what's happening. And then it wasn't. As a reminder, both of the Apollo series have the ability to have up to tier 1 beds, but as the beds get higher in its 2 independent medical rooms, the amount of beds that can fit take up more space. So a tier 1 bed, you only have one on one side. And then you could have the other side have 2 tier 2 beds or 3 tier 3s. So just keep that in mind, that the system that they use is completely different for different circumstances. And then you have the 2 UAVs that can go out and pick people up. So these are like these are automated stretchers that can go out and pick people up and then bring them into the bottom of the ship. So this is actually a great little rescue ship too. But the triage is the one with less armor and does not have as many weapon systems on board, and it's also cheaper. Whereas the medevac, which is only slightly more money, you might have to do a mini game to unlock this. So bear that in mind. But unless they got rid of that, the medevac is worth the extra bump in price. But I would say that both of them are a long-term hold, not something that is worth picking up if you're absolutely an essential thing. The Aurora LN is the upgraded Aurora. It has extra weapon systems on board, slightly better modules. I believe that's still the case. Great little ship. I think it's great for somebody starting out. If you're looking to upgrade from another Aurora, even my mighty Aurora LX, I would consider upgrading to an LN if I really needed it to be. The Andromeda is a standby great ship, great for exploration, has excellent scanning facilities, but not as good as the Aquila, which is actually dedicated to exploration. So the Andromeda being a gunship that happens to have scanners, happens to have extra living facilities, etc. for up to 4 crew, versus the Aquila, which is dedicated to doing all those things and then some. The Aquila, I don't know if it's still worth it, but it is certainly going to be more interesting as mining gets more brought online, as outposts become more plentiful, as places like Pyro to explore become more and more valuable. It may be. And then the near and dear to my heart, the Phoenix, which is a stock limited ship, unfortunately, for some bizarre reason. I think just to keep people who already own one happy. And as somebody who has one sitting in buyback, I can tell you, I have a love-hate relationship with this ship. I love the way Josh Coons designed this ship. I think he did a great job. I think the Texas team really took a good crack at this, and it really styled it, as they put it in their own words, like a business class on a high-end train or aircraft. And the lobby that they made, that in his words, they try to make it as baller as possible, certainly succeeded, especially when you replace the on this side of the ship, there's like this long table for meetings and such, which you can replace with a piano. When you do that, it is quite cool. The Hartwell 88G, if I'm not mistaken, the flare is still broken, unfortunately, but when it is not, it is worth it. I do wish the stupid hot tub could have other things in there, like, for example, 2 business terminals that maybe have better communications that work in places that traditional comms might not be working off of your Mobi glass. You know, you jump onto a computer terminal on the ship that has better amplification, or maybe a hacking terminal, dare I say it, which is kind of outside of its spectrum, but who knows? Or maybe just a PDS type controller, you know, if you wanted to reprogram the PDSs that's supposed to be on board a PDS turret. It's not just anything at all. But anyway, the other thing that was suggested was putting a docking port on that side, because right now the way to get on and off the ship is through the crew quarters in the front of the ship, and then you go to the really cool living place in the back, or go through the very cargo hold. And onto the Taurus. If you can't afford any other Connie, this is a great Connie to start with. Furthermore, it can haul the most. It will make you a lot of UEC, and you can buy the rest of them in game with the Taurus. This ship can actually hold 2 Ursas back to back, 2 ROCs you can put in there. Well, don't quote me on the 2 Ursas. I'm pretty sure we did, but I think it was very, very tight. But I guarantee you can get 2 ROCs in there, or a mule and an ROC, and maybe even squeeze in a third of something. So it's very, very small as well. Has a great little smuggler hold in the back that adds a couple of UEC, and may or may not in the future be scannable protection. This is a great workhorse, and when this came out, it caused a lot of fervor because a lot of people like it. Also, this is the only Connie that's actually showing you something important. When you put it into VTOL mode, all of these fans open up, and they basically create extra energy that can allow this thing to land in a lot of places that other ships may have a hard time. So a lot like the Raylan, the Taurus it doesn't haul as much, but it is internalized cargo versus externalized, and it can haul vehicles, which the Raylan can't. And they both have excellent VTOL capacity, so do not count the Connies out. One of the other things that's really cool about Connies is commonality. On the Taurus, it may be a little bit bigger and maybe a little more sluggish because of its bigness and because it can haul more, but all the Connies kind of fly alike. So if you learn one, you can operate a lot of them. So if you're one of those people that likes to learn one flight style, one gameplay style, the Connies are not a bad thing to look at. I spoke about the Mantis earlier in this video. I'm really not a fan of the Mantis. I think there needs to be a heavy interdictor version, but if you're into just jamming and trolling in general, that's a great ship. If you're into extreme gameplay, like you're willing to keep blowing up just so your teammates, your friends and org mates can get kills, more power to you. There you go. There's your ship. The Percy is the Percy. This is definitely a buying game. One of my gripes with the Percy is that I think the design is wonderful for a 3 to 4 player ship. You have one on the bridge, one in the main gun on top, one in the main gun on the bottom, maybe one in engineering if you have extra person, or if there is NPC crew in the future, it would be perfect to have one in engineering, for example, and that's all you need. This is a wonderful ship. I think this is a great mission runner ship for a couple players to kind of get together and have a good time. One of the things about a ship like the Polaris is these size 10 torps take up a lot of money. 24 of these size 10 torps are going to cost you a boatload of cash, no matter how they balance it. Whereas that Percy is just kicking away shells. Even a large shell is not going to cost that much. Whereas a size 10 torp that needs guidance systems and needs all these other systems and that can be destroyed in flight versus the Percy's shots out of its guns is just it's just not nothing to compare with. I mean, you got 4 size 7s on that thing. Sure, but the size 10 torps can be destroyed in flight. And this is an awfully squishy ship for how much it can offer damage-wise. It's a running gunner, whereas the Percy is more of a slugger. I can definitely see in the future orgs relying on Percys, using them in fleets with something else acting as their scanner, as their utility ships, etc. I definitely see them symbiotic too. Technically, Polarises could be in the same fleet as a Percy, but like they would swoop in, drop a few loads of 4 torps each, reload once or twice, and then get off the field after taking a little bit of damage, whilst the Percys are sitting right next to all the rest of the fleet, actually dealing the consistent DPS damage that's needed to finish off the job. So the Scorp, we've talked about the Scorp a little bit, so we don't need to really go into that. And finally, the Ursa Rover for RSI. The Ursa Rover is a great standby. Some of the Connies came with those, so look very closely at the packages you already have. The Ursa Rover is great, but the price point is more just makes it an LTI token, or more of a CCU token nowadays because there's no LTI attached. But so the Connie Taurus is a nice war bond daily deal. I think any type of deal on the Connie dropping its price slightly is nice. Very good deal. We got merch for RSI. Great. Okay, on to Origin. So Origin, we've got the 100 series we have right here. So if I go, how about we just do newest to oldest? How about that? Oh my goodness, the G12s. No comment. These vehicles are still in concept, and I have no idea why. Have 2 atmosphere protected people inside, cool little trucks. I with weapon systems. I just wish they were real. The 100 series ships. This is actually one of Mason's favorite ships in the game. You do not need fuel for this thing. The 125A actually has a little more combat potential, and it's more maneuverable than the rest of the 100 series. They're a ship that has grown on me a little bit, especially because you can spawn them at the ground-based Platinum Base, which you can't really do with many other ships, if any. So it's a nice touch. And the 325A, which is a great standby. If this is one of Mason's favorite ships, I would say this is one of my favorite ships. The 325A is the reason I don't like the 100 series as much. Even though it consumes its own fuel, this thing can kind of fight its way out of something and run away. This ship can stay and fight and win. Even when it's wing, I've had many times where I've had missions where I've had a wing blown off, or I've been playing against other players, and just that cannon can finish the job. You're really rocking a lot of damage on this ship, and there's customizations that you can build into this, so it's a dedicated interdictor or a dedicated gunfighter. This is a really great ship. I feel that until that Gatling runs out of ammunition, you can rely, and you run out of missiles, and you're relying on your secondaries, then you're kind of weak. But at first and all through the fight, this is a nasty ship, and it's a beautiful ship. It has the ability to add with just a couple dollars in customizations. You can add food to this. You can add a coffee maker to this, the useful stuff, and then also some other for show items. So this is a really great ship with a restroom for hygiene and everything else, the bed, everything, all in one. Whereas the 100 series relies just on having the bed. So I can't stress enough how much greatness that you can do with this ship. And I've got myself in a lot of problems with the 325A and also the 350R. It's racing brethren, but as you can see, there's no. They're just doing combat vessels today, so there's less for Origin to really celebrate on a week like this. So if you're looking at the other ones, wait for IAE to get the other specializations. On to Consolidate Outland. So this is going to be real easy because they don't even have the Pioneer yet on here. I think when they start building FOBs and stuff like that, fire forward operating bases, I guess they'll have the Pioneer next to the Mustang Delta with a UEE skin or something for it. But the Mustang Delta is a fun little fighter. I do not like it as much as the 325A, but then again, obviously I am biased. The Delta is a great combat vessel. I've had fighting with them, and I have a lot of respect for them. They are more of a light fighter, as you can see here, and they bring a lot of weapons to the table. I am not the biggest fan of them, but they are a great option if you're looking for light fighters. If you already have a Gladius and you already have your Arrow, you might want to consider picking one up, just if you're really that big of a fan of light fighters. To the Imp of Cargo, for the Argo folks. If you already have something that's somehow cheaper than this, it's not a bad upgrade. The Cargo will have these boxes detachable between this Cargo and the Personnel. Both of them have these boxes detachable, so a Personnel can pick up a Cargo box, and a Cargo can pick up a Personnel box. It's more of the paint scheme, honestly. And the Personnel is a nicer ship. It's rarer. So if you're really looking for that factor, the little bump in price, $5, is not bad. Cool little ship. And then the SRV, a workhorse. I don't know if this is going to be worth it or not, but for that price point, you really can't go wrong. I mean, it's basically at that price point, you got the Retaliator base, and then you have the SRV, and then slightly more, you got the Taurus. So all three of those ships, you cannot go wrong with. I think the SRV has a wonderful assortment of loaner ships, and also that the SRV is one of those ships that's really going to be a sleeper. But I stress that you'll probably need more than one of these things to do different things. We talked about the Javelin, the military Javelin coming into Origin. I've endlessly talked about that recently, and it's been very exciting to see it happen. I think when player Javelins start docking in Origin, they're going to need SRVs so they don't waste tremendous amounts of fuel. On a ship that big, the fuel cost is going to skyrocket. But an SRV that has a tractor beam system where you can have multiple of these helping to tow a large vessel into town will be mission critical to help bring the prices down and also prevent accidents, etc., etc. Kind of be like the tugboat tenders of the game. Also, you can rescue org mates with this thing. If you don't have a big enough ship to physically house their ship, like a Crucible or above, or a Polaris, or one of these other giant ships, this SRV can do the job. So there is a concept art anyway of this thing towing a Connie. Now, I think that's a little big for a single one of these, but who knows? This has living quarters on board. It also has a waiting area for people that you rescue. So the idea is if their ship doesn't have working life support, you can bring them inside safely and have them wait basically at a table and await getting back to civilization with you. So I can't stress enough how much I think this is a sleeper ship. I think this SRV is a great buy, or wait and game and buy. Either way, your org should have a few of these. And I said the word org for a reason. It's more of a utility vessel for an org, not really a personal ship per se, because it's going to be very niche. You're going to be frantically getting a call on comms or in Spectrum or something where people are begging you for help. This thing's going to make it happen. But who knows if it'll actually make you money if you're helping out org mates. It's up to you if you really want to charge doing that. But it is a ship that is forgotten about and mission critical, just like these MPubs. All right, that's going to do it for this day. If you haven't already seen the video of my my FPS follies, learn from my mistakes and have a good time and check it out. And hope to see us all on the sales floor of the FPS game. Checking out the fleet. There's a lot of exciting stuff to do. Enjoy this free fly and this launch week, just the jump week. Have a good one.